5 Psychological Tricks to Win Any Argument, Truth or Just Manipulation. Have you ever been right in an argument but still ended up losing? Here are 5 simple psychological tricks to ensure you always come out on top, and the last one will change the way you debate forever. Watch until the end to find out. Active listening, the secret of Socrates. When it comes to the art of debate, most people think that presenting strong arguments and sharp logic is the key to winning. However, one of the most crucial tricks to gain the upper hand in any argument isn't about what you say. It's about how you listen. This is the very technique the philosopher Socrates employed thousands of years ago. And it remains an invaluable lesson to this day. Imagine being in a heated debate. The natural instinct is to respond quickly, defend your point of view, and even interrupt your opponent. But Socrates, one of history's greatest minds, took a different approach. He was famous for his Socratic method, where instead of imposing his views on others, he asked open-ended questions to help them uncover the truth themselves. This method made his opponents feel respected and gradually steered them toward aligning with his reasoning. A fascinating story about Socrates tells of a young man who insisted he knew everything. Instead of arguing directly, Socrates asked a series of simple yet incisive questions like, "Are you sure this is true? If this is correct, what about that?" After a series of questions, the young man realized the flaws in his logic without Socrates ever needing to criticize him. This is the power of active listening combined with the art of questioning. How can you apply this in real life? Active listening isn't just about hearing the words your opponent says. It requires full focus on the person communicating with you, resisting the urge to prepare your counter-arguments or think of ways to rebut. Nod slightly, maintain eye contact, and sometimes paraphrase or rephrase what your opponent has said to show that you truly care. For instance, if someone shares their opinion, you can respond with, "I understand your point. You're saying that. Is that correct?" This not only shows respect but also builds trust in the conversation. Psychological studies have shown that when someone feels heard and understood, they are less likely to rigidly defend their opinions. They become more open to other perspectives and even willing to change their mind. In a Harvard University study, researchers found that skilled listeners were more successful at persuading others because they knew how to connect emotionally before presenting their arguments. Take business negotiations as an example. Great negotiators spend most of their time listening to their counterparts. They don't just listen for surface-level meanings but also pick up on hidden concerns, priorities, and desires. By doing so, they propose solutions that address the needs of both sides, resulting in win-win outcomes. Similarly, in everyday life, when you listen sincerely, you can identify the pain points of the other person, enabling you to address or resolve issues tactfully. Active listening not only helps you persuade others but also enables you to learn more. As the renowned author Stephen Covey once said, "Most people do not listen with the intent to understand, they listen with the intent to reply." This is why many arguments escalate into conflicts. Neither side truly listens but only waits for their turn to respond. But when you shift your mindset to listen for understanding, you'll be surprised at how many unnecessary arguments can be resolved peacefully. Start applying Socrates' secret today. In your next conversation, resist the urge to respond immediately. Instead, focus on listening and asking open-ended questions to guide your opponent. You'll soon discover that silence and attentiveness can be your most powerful weapons in any debate. Listening doesn't make you weaker, on the contrary. It lays the foundation for you to become the leader of the conversation. Just as Socrates did thousands of years ago, using logic, Aristotle's rule. In debates, emotions can play a significant role, but sharp reasoning and sound logic are the ultimate keys to convincing your opponent. This is the foundational principle that philosopher Aristotle emphasized through the syllogism, a mental framework he developed to construct and strengthen arguments systematically. This method not only helps you dominate debates but also makes your arguments nearly impervious to rebuttal. Aristotle argued that every persuasive argument relies on 3 main components: logos, logic; ethos, credibility of the speaker; and pathos, emotion. Among these, logos, or reason, is the core. He introduced the simple syllogistic structure: if premise A is true and premise B is true, then conclusion C must also be true. For example, premise A: all humans are mortal. Premise B: Socrates is human. Conclusion C: therefore, Socrates is mortal. The clarity and rationality of this reasoning make it difficult for opponents to refute. Using similar logic in debates will help you create a solid foundation for defending your stance. Try applying this to real-life scenarios. For instance, in a debate about environmental protection, if you want to persuade your opponent that preserving forests is essential, you might argue, Premise A: deforestation contributes to climate change. Premise B: climate change negatively impacts human life. Conclusion C: therefore, we must protect forests. Such clear structures not only make your points easy to follow but also leave little room for opposition. Logic also requires preparation. Before entering a debate, research the topic thoroughly, gather data, and use factual evidence to support your arguments. Numbers, studies, and historical examples are powerful tools to strengthen your reasoning. For instance, in a debate on climate change, citing facts like, global temperatures have risen by 1.2 degrees Celsius since pre-industrial times, according to the IPCC, will make your argument far more compelling. An iconic example of the power of logic is Abraham Lincoln's speeches during the Lincoln-Douglas debates. Lincoln used tight logical reasoning to explain why slavery contradicted basic human rights and values. His well-structured arguments not only won debates but also shifted public opinion for a generation. However, logic isn't just about presenting your points. It's also about anticipating and preemptively addressing potential counterarguments. This technique, known as preemptive rebuttal, involves explaining why your reasoning holds even before your opponent raises doubts. Remember, logic is the backbone of any successful debate. By building a framework of clear, rational, and evidence-based arguments, you'll not only earn respect but also lead your opponent to reconsider their own views. This is the enduring power of logic. As taught by Aristotle, activating emotions, the power of storytelling. Emotions are a powerful force capable of changing thoughts and behaviors. No matter how logical your arguments may be, if you fail to tap into the emotions of your audience, your case might lack persuasive impact. This is why the greatest orators in history always infused emotions into their speeches, using them as potent weapons to stir the minds and hearts of their listeners. A prime example of this is Martin Luther King Jr.'s iconic speech, "I Have a Dream." In that speech, King didn't merely present logical arguments about equality and human rights. He painted vivid emotional images that evoked hope and compassion in millions of people. He said, "I have a dream that one day my 4 little children will live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." These words, combined with heartfelt emotion, resonated deeply with the nation and spurred historic changes in the civil rights movement. So how can you activate emotions in a debate? One of the most effective ways is through storytelling. Humans are naturally drawn to stories. They help us connect and empathize with each other. For instance, instead of saying, "Reducing carbon emissions is crucial to saving the planet," you could tell the story of a small fishing village facing rising sea levels, forcing families to abandon their homes after generations of living there. Such a story not only conveys the message but also makes the issue feel personal and urgent. Additionally, emotions can be evoked through your delivery. Pay attention to your choice of words, and use vivid imagery to illustrate your points. Instead of saying, "The consequences of war are severe," you could describe it as, "Imagine a mother clutching her child amidst the rubble of what was once their home." Concrete imagery and heartfelt delivery will make your argument far more compelling than cold, detached language. Science supports the importance of emotions in persuasion. Psychological research shows that when people feel empathy toward a cause, they are more likely to support it. This is why campaigns for social causes or fundraising efforts often feature personal stories and visuals of individuals affected. They turn abstract issues into relatable, tangible ones. However, when leveraging emotions, balance is key. Relying solely on emotions without supporting logic may make your argument seem manipulative. On the other hand, combining emotion with sound reasoning creates a powerful message that resonates deeply with your audience. The power of emotions not only helps you win arguments but also fosters deeper connections with those around you. Remember, a compelling story is not just a tool for delivering a message but a bridge between your heart and that of your listener. When you master the art of activating emotions through storytelling, persuading others will become a natural and effective skill. Take one step back to take 2 steps forward. In a debate, perhaps the hardest thing isn't defending your viewpoint but knowing when to concede. Many people see concession as a sign of weakness, but in reality, It's the opposite. Knowing how to strategically yield not only helps you avoid unnecessary conflicts but also serves as a subtle tactic to gain trust and agreement from your opponent. Abraham Lincoln, one of America's greatest leaders, once said, "I destroy my enemies when I make them my friends." This embodies the wisdom of taking one step back to take two steps forward. Picture a heated argument where both sides stubbornly defend their positions. If you continue to press your point without any concession, the debate will likely escalate into a full-blown confrontation. But by conceding a small part of your opponent's argument, for example, acknowledging a valid point, you not only diffuse tension but also create space for collaboration. This makes your opponent feel respected and more willing to consider your subsequent arguments. A prime example of this can be seen in political negotiations. Successful diplomats often concede on minor issues to achieve their main objectives. They understand that when the other party feels they've won something, they're more likely to agree to larger compromises. This strategy not only leads to better outcomes but also builds trust between the parties involved. In everyday life, you can apply this principle in various situations. For instance, when debating a work project with a colleague, instead of stubbornly defending your idea, you might say, "I think your idea to streamline the process is great. Can we combine it with this approach to achieve an even better result?" Acknowledging the value in your opponent's viewpoint reduces resistance and paves the way for a more productive discussion. Psychologists refer to this tactic as the foot in the door effect. When you concede slightly, your opponent becomes more open to reciprocating, creating a positive feedback loop of agreement. However, for this strategy to work, your concessions must be genuine. If they come across as insincere or manipulative, your opponent will notice and may respond negatively. Most importantly, concession doesn't mean abandoning your principles. It's a way to steer the argument toward your ultimate goal. When you take a step back, you don't just ease the tension, you also prompt your opponent to rethink their stance. This gives you a significant advantage in leading the discussion to a favorable conclusion. Like a skilled martial artist who steps back to dodge an attack before countering effectively. Knowing when to yield is a smart and sustainable way to win any argument. What do you think? How did you find these psychological tricks? Have you used any of them in your personal or professional life? Or do you have other tips that work even better? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below. Together, we can learn from each other's experiences and improve our debate skills. If you found these insights helpful, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss any of our content. Also, share this video with your friends or family. It might just be the tool they need to overcome challenges in their debates. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.